Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes. This time taking a look at the C major scale, otherwise known as the Ionian mode, focusing on centering from, measuring around the C note located on the 4th string down from the top of the guitar, fret number 5, and this is part number 2. Noting one of our major objectives is to orientate all of our resources in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes as possible from the perspective of the player of the guitar, who is of course located behind the guitar. Therefore, for example, my guitar is going to look like I'm playing left-handed, but no, we just flipped it around so it mirrors what you are doing as you play your guitar, as though you were playing the guitar in front of a mirror. When you're holding the guitar, you will note that you'll have the fretboard is going to be on your left-hand side. We've got the low or heavy string, the one closest to the ceiling up top, going from left to right would go towards the body of the guitar. Similarly orientated being our Excel worksheet, which is mocking up or representing the fretboard, where we have this representing the low or heavy E string, the one closest to the ceiling, top to bottom, left to right, orientated as though we simply took our guitar and imprinted the strings on the screen. We're now continuing on with our interval practice, and we're looking at the intervals in the Ionian or major mode, Ionian or major scale this time. And then we want to be able to compare that to all of the other modes. And let's do just a quick recap on why this is important, so that when we do this kind of practice, we can try to get it down and pack as much as possible into as little a time as possible to do kind of our theory work, which I like to do kind of in the morning when my mind is still working, and at least get like 15 minutes in of just trying to work on intervals, which is actually kind of fun if you do it for a while. If you have an Excel spreadsheet, of course, because Excel spreadsheets are fun by nature, and they're, look how colorful this thing is, right? I mean, it's amazing. So it doesn't really get better than that. You should really, it's something to look forward to, really. Some people just don't like the Excel sheets. I don't know what is wrong with people. What is wrong with people? Look at this thing. This is better than modern art right here. This thing looks like it should be hung on a wall. Any case, where was I? So what are we trying to do? We have, this is the position that typically we would think of as, I would call position number 1, or you might call it a G-shaped C major position, because this would be a G shape in the caged system. So, and if I was to play a pentatonic scale from A to A, it would look like that. 7 note, it would sound like that. So that is a common position that a lot of people learn first, maybe not in fret 5, but they learn it somewhere. I would recommend it be good to learn it here, because that's right in the middle of the guitar, and although you'd be playing in A minor, if you went from A to A, if you went from C to C, you'd be in the related major. And because we're nicely in the middle of the guitar, we have an even amount of space basically behind it, or towards the back of the guitar and towards the body of the guitar, which allows us to understand things and build on it better. So my strategy, by the way, I haven't mentioned this for a while, so let me just kind of point this out, is that I would first want to be memorizing things basically in open position from the standpoint of chords, because that's the most fun thing to do, and because a lot of theory or a lot of playing up the guitar will be based on those chord shapes. You can use the caged system, or at least 2 components of the caged system, which is going to be the E major shape, the E minor shape, the A major shape, the A minor shape, to then have movable chords up the guitar. So that's great. So you want to play here. That's the most fun thing to do, to play, to just be jamming around with open chords. And then I would say the next thing you want to do is learn in the middle of the guitar. Why? Because then you're able to grow naturally from side to side. I want to be able to say, when I'm working on scale shapes and whatnot, I'd like to be able to imagine I can build my understanding to both to the right and to the left of the shape. And so that's why I want to be in the middle of the guitar when I'm learning shapes. And then when I learn shapes, or when I learn how to play in the middle of the guitar, we can do that by either we learn the pattern, which would be a scaled pattern, or you can think of the caged patterns as another kind of pattern that fits into the scale patterns. We can also think of it by building the formula, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, from the perspective of the C, and then altering that, which I might look at more. That's the one I used possibly least and is possibly most complex on a guitar, given the fact that it's not in a linear format as is the piano. And then, of course, we're going to work on the intervals, which is what we are doing here, so that I can construct around any center point the intervals. Now, we typically do that, of course, with the the Ionian or major scale. That's just a convention in Western music, so you might as well go with that because that's what everybody does. And so I'm going to build it on the Ionian scale. So I want to learn these intervals backwards and forwards. I want to understand them completely so that I can then use that as my Rosetta Stone, comparing all other modes basically to it. So and I can also do that with the shape, by the way. I can learn this shape as the major. I can think of it as the major scale and all related modes fitting within it, and then I can make small alterations to it to get to all the other modes. That's another way I can kind of visualize what I'm trying to do here. So most of the time we measure things. We often learn the top two strings, kind of like a piano, and we learn them as though they are piano keys, right? And we just say, even though I can't see the black keys to help me out, I know the pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, or I'm just going to memorize the top two strings on which notes I can play. And then I can build onto that, adding the fifth, the easiest thing, power chord, and then build onto that, possibly adding the third being more difficult because we have major third or minor thirds, those being the defining characteristics, the difference between chords typically. So we start to memorize that the 1, 4, 5, the blues progression, are all the majors. The 2, 3, and 6 are the minors, and the Locrian's the funny one, which I would call a minor with a flat fifth. So it's still kind of a minor in essence, but you can't play the fifth on it. That's the problem with that one. But then that's great, but that only helps for the 1, 3, 5, and it only helps you to know what to play if you're in the Ionian mode or major scale. If I switch to the Dorian mode, all that's happening is I'm making the D, the 1, all the notes are the same. What I can do to try to tie it to my Rosetta Stone, the major scale, is to label the modes based on the relative positions to the major scale. So therefore, I would call the Dorian mode number 2, and therefore I know that it's going to be building a chord based on the 2 note of the relative major scale, which means it would be a minor chord, and then I can look at all the other positions relative to the 1 of the Dorian and look at the relative positions to the major scale, which can at least give me a Rosetta Stone to kind of understand which of these notes I would then be building a major chord or a minor chord from. Now, I'd like to go beyond that, however, and also note I don't want to just do the 1, 3, 5. I'd want to be able to know which 7, 9, 11, and 13, the 9, 11, and 13 being equivalent to the 2, 4, and 6, which of those would fit into the key I'm playing in. And to know that, I not only need to know that it would build a major or minor chord, have a major or minor third from that position, I also need to then know, in essence, the modes. So you kind of have to know the modes if you want to know what you're doing as to when I can add a 7, 9, 11, and 13 to a particular chord. So that's kind of what we're going to build on here. So we're learning the intervals of the major, the C major, measuring around this point, noting that a lot of times we don't think about building the intervals from a note down here on the fretboard. It becomes more difficult than doing it up here on the C up top. Why? Because when I measure from up here and I move down, looking at the intervals, I can more easily see my bar shapes, which are going to be, if I'm on the top string, an E major or an E minor. If I'm on the bottom string, if you don't understand what I'm saying on these caged shapes, that's okay. I'm just saying this is the caged system would be on the top 2 strings oftentimes, or you just call them bar chords, which are basically equivalent to the E shape and then the A major and A minor shape from here. Also, when I'm looking at these intervals up top and I'm measuring the distance moving down, I don't need to look at the inverse distance. That makes it easier. Whereas if I'm looking at this C over here and I'm trying to build a chord from the notes above it, on the strings above it, which would be an inverted chord, but I want to look at this as my root point, I have to look at the inverse distance, which most people don't know how to do because we barely know how to count things out when I'm moving down on the fretboard, because most people don't even know the distance between two strings because it's not laid out like a piano, and the conventions on the intervals are kind of confusing because they don't really tell you, and you got this tectonic plate shift up here that throws everything off. So that's what we want to practice. We'll practice the inverse distances when we measure above it. We also have the problem down here of being right next to the fault line. So when I'm up here, I'm on this entire continent that doesn't have a difference between the strings. We haven't hit the fault line. But when I'm down here, I've got this fault line that's always present that's going to mess up all my shapes. So we really want to understand this position and measure from around here. That gives us good practice to deal with what happens across the fault line. And that allows us to build things not only by shape, but I can actually count it out if I wanted to. If I want to prove what's happening to myself, I could say, well, is this really a minor chord? Well, I can say, well, where's my root? And let me count out the third and see where the third is. And I won't be thrown off by the fault line, and I can figure out my chords that way, right? So it's a useful tool. So we're going to be continuing on measuring around this C note. All right, I'm going to try to tell a quick joke here because, again, that was kind of a long, rambling intro before we get into looking at the third, which is the big, important one to be looking at in the major scale. It's kind of a long joke, so I have to get it out here. I don't know why I'm starting to write the longer ones here. So here we go. This joke practice. This is kind of more of a rant or observation joke rather than having actual good joke structure, I feel like. Not that I ever have real good joke structure, but anyway, here we go. I may be late to realizing this, but have you noticed that Hollywood seems to be using the usually male term actor to describe women who used to be called actresses, right? So like if there were multiple actors, like in an English language, kind of similar, you would say that they're called actors if there's men and women. But if there's just women, you used to call them actresses, but now they call them an actor, even if it's one woman, or actors, even if it's multiple women and no men, which is kind of confusing. I mean, honestly, how is it that these woke, like, deconstructionist people are somehow able to even, like, Latinxify, like, as they butchered the Spanish language by trying to degender it? They're trying to neuter the Spanish language, which I don't think is being very effective at this point in time. But how are they able to even attempt doing that to a language that isn't even gendered like English? It doesn't even have the gendered component to it. I mean, okay. English is not even a gendered language the way Spanish is, and they still found a way to neuter it. I mean, this is crazy. Like, these deconstructivists are amazing. Like, if these deconstructivist people were like archers, you know, like shooting bow and arrow archers, they'd be able to spot and shoot down through brush and fog any kind of dangling testicle or breast that dares to show itself within like a 50-yard radius. That's how deadly these people are with the with the degendering thing here. I mean, it's crazy, honestly. Honestly, I feel like this calling actresses actors is particularly dangerous for straight men. This is just a trap waiting to happen. I can see it. You put the bear trap right there, and now you're just laughing at me, waiting to step in it. I can see what's happening here. You think I'm stupid, but no, I see, because if you call a woman an actor and she's a woman instead of actress, then you know that the feminists are going to attack you for erasing women from existence, basically calling like women men. I mean, seriously, like for years, presenters have been told that we can't use the word men for mankind to describe all humans, you know? This is mankind. These are the men because there's men and women, so you say men in English. because it's sexist, and we need to sprinkle in the word women to be more inclusive, which is really, it's not an easy thing to do. You would think, okay, that's not too difficult, but it's hard to do when you're presenting, because you end up trying to run like a running tally in your mind of how many times you used each word so that you don't sound too like patriarchal, but you don't sound like a total like weirdo using the other, I mean, it kind of ruins the flow, bro, or I mean, bras too, or bros or sisses as well, sisters too, bros and sisses and sisters. I mean, see what I mean? It messes the whole thing up when you're trying to just like do your thing. But on the other hand, if you call women an actress, and instead of using the new non-gendered term of actor to call women and men actors, then you know that the social deconstructivists who think gender is just like a social construct and they want to eliminate it, they'll attack you then. You see where the bear trap is? You see how you can't win here? Do you see what I'm saying? They put the bear trap and they're just laughing at you. I mean, honestly, I feel like calling them actors instead of actresses, even though they're women, is actually the safer thing to do, because I feel like I have more of a fighting chance against like a mob of actual biological women when they attack me, even if they are angry feminists, which is a condition that seems to generate inhuman powers of rage sometimes, like some dude on like PCP or something. So it's nothing to be taken lightly, but I still feel like I have more of a fighting chance there if they're all like biological women. But I feel like on the other hand, I feel like the angry feminists have a point with the whole erasing women thing when I think about it, even though I think they go way too far with forcing us to say womankind in like equal proportion to mankind, which seems that's ridiculous, but this kind of feels like that seems this whole thing. So I'm kind of sticking with calling them actresses at this point for now. That's what I feel like. But even though the deconstructivist mob is way more dangerous, I'm still gonna do it because they don't scare me. Okay, that's not true. These people are terrifying. But still, whatever, dude. I mean, the universal term dude, when I say dude. No, you can't just say dudes. Okay, dudes and dudettes. Okay, dudes and okay, that's all I got. That's what I got. All right, so now we're looking at the 4-note away, which is going to be a major third. So this third right here represents that it's the third note down when we count from the top. So it's the third note down. And this 4 represents that it has a distance of 4 because it is a third. And in chord constructions, we skip every other note. We have the 1, the 3, the 5. That means that we have the same naming construction when we look at the third for our chord construction, so that makes it easy. However, the third is the thing that's going to be different between a major chord construction and a minor chord construction, and is also the defining characteristic or factor or interval defining the modes as either major modes or minor modes. So it's an important one. Remembering, I'm going to classify Locrian in essence as a minor mode because it does have a minor third in it. So when we look at the major thirds, we have the major third interval that's going to be in the Ionian, the Lydian, and the Mixolydian. All right, so let's go ahead and say we're going to count it from here, and we've got a major third up this way. So I'm counting from the C. We're going to be measuring around the C right here. So it's going to be 4 notes up. So we're going to just say 1, 2, 3, 4 notes up. So counting it out here, 1, 2, 3, 4 notes up. So there's the sound of it. Now, just for reference purposes, the minor third is going to be right behind it. So the minor third is a flattened third. You can think of it 3-note away minor third. Now I want to point that out because when we're looking, notice that when I'm looking at these modes, one way that you could start, there's a couple ways that I've been kind of playing with that we can kind of blend in things that are outside of the scale. One is the classic bluesy way to basically do it, meaning I can take the major scale and convert it into like a bluesy progression. And you can do that with either the Mixolydian mode or the C major. So these two, if I learn this shape, notice I can play the C major and I can try to convert the C major to more of a Mixolydian, which would be a minor, like a blues progression, or I can look at the G Mixolydian, which already has like the bluesy progression in it, meaning it has a flat 7. So how can I? So if I wanted to make this C be more bluesy, one way I could do it is, of course, is blend this note, the blues note, right? So we blend from the flat third to the major third. And then the other component that makes it more bluesy is that this 7. So we have a major 7. So if you wanted to play that back, right? Here's my 7. So I have, right? I could go from this. I could go from this would be the minor 7, and then the major 7. So instead of playing this 7, I could start to throw in this 7, right? The minor 7. Those are the two things that would basically kind of convert, smearing the third, and then tinkering with this note, which we could smear as well. And so that's going to be so you might want to, but we want to know where that minor is in any case. All right. So let's say we go above it. If I go above it, we're going to go up here. So I'm looking for a 4-note away major third distance. If I go above the string that I'm counting from, I have to look for the inverse distance. So the inverse distance of a 4-note away major third would be 12 minus 4, which would be 8 notes away, which from an interval construction, which would be a minor 6. So we're going to say this is going to be -5 between the strings. I go negative when I go up above it, and there's 5 notes between the strings. And then when I go back, I go more towards negative. So negative 6, 7, and 8. So let's count it out here. So -5, 6, 7, 8. So it's going to be right there. So from top to bottom, that would be an 8-note away, which would be a minor 6, and therefore from bottom to top would be a 4-note away major third. So the inverse of a major is always a minor. The inverse of a 4-note away major third is an 8-note away, which would be a minor 6. So if I can see that shape, I want to be able to start to just visualize, oh, that's a minor 6, and the inverse, therefore, is a major third, or that's a major third inverse. The inverse is a minor 6. And then where would if I flatten this, that would be the minor third. So if I was trying to do something bluesy thing, right, I would be going from something like that, right? And then, so let's go, and so that means that if I go up one string, the 4-note away major third will be 1, 2, 3 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string. So if I was on the B string, let's go out here. If I was on this C and I go up one string, it's going to be further back because this tectonic plate would shift it to the right. So the rule is if I go up one string, the 4-note away major third will be 3 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string, in which case if I go up one string, the 4-note away major third would be 4 frets back. All right, let's go up 2 strings. Bring this back. 2 strings to, what am I looking for? An E, so right there. So I'm looking for the 4-note away major third if I go up 2 strings. So that's going to be, I'm looking for a 4-note away major third, which has an inverse distance because I'm going above it of 12 minus 4, which is 8. So I'm looking for a distance of 8. -5 between the strings, -10. And then if I go this way, it goes less negative, right? -9, -8. So I'm going to say, let's count it out this way. It's going to be from here, -5, -10, and then 9, negative 10, and then 9, 8, right there. So if I went from top to bottom, from E to C, that would be an 8 note away, which would be a minor 6, and therefore from bottom to top, C to E would be the inverse distance, would be the 4 note away major third. Where's the minor third? It's going to be right behind it, flattening the third, 3 note away minor third. So if you did like a bluesy blending thing, and the question is which finger should I do that with? If I'm holding down this C, maybe I can do it with my middle, or maybe you're more comfortable doing it with your ring. And then the question is, should I ring out that D? That D is the second. It's going to be somewhat of a harshy sound because it's a second, but it's still in the key, so I could ring it out. Or I could try to mute it. So I'm still trying to hit the C as I blend up, dependent, so you can kind of play with that. It's kind of fun to play with the open strings. Any case, we got then, so that means that if I go up 2 strings, the 4 note away major third will be 1 fret forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the bottom 2 strings, the B or the E string. So if I go from this C and I go up 2 strings, it would be here. So the rule is if I go up 2 strings, then the 4 note away major third will be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the bottom 2 strings, the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 4 note away major third would be 1 fret forward. All right, let's go to the top string. If I go up here, this is the long distance. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets back, which means it's also going to be 6 frets forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a second, it's only 5 frets back. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. There we go. All right. So let's count that out. If I count that out, it's going to be, I'm looking for a 4 note away major third. Therefore, the inverse distance is 12 minus 4, which is an 8 note away, which would be a minor 6. So it's going to be negative 5, negative 10, negative 15. There's only 12 notes. 15 minus 12 is 3. So that's going to be at negative 3. And then going this way is going up in the negative direction, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's do it from here. So negative 5, negative 10, negative 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3, negative 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from here, open, if I played from open to the C, that would be an 8 note away minor 6. And therefore from C up to the E is going to be a 4 note away major third. All right, so that means, and the minor third is not available because we ran into the nut, right? So there's nothing back. You'd have to go back beyond there. So that means if I go up 3 strings, the 4 note away major third is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the B or the E string. So let's look at this C and say we went up 1, 2, 3 strings. Then it's going to be way back here. It's going to be further back, because this tectonic plate shifted the route that we're looking at forward. So the rule is if I went up 3 strings, the 4 note away minor third would be 5 frets back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is just reachable, although it's difficult on this side of the guitar. And unless I cross the fault line, which happens on the B or the E strings at the bottom, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 4 note away major third will be 6 frets back, which is basically right in the middle, just out of reach, which means we'll also have 6 frets forward as well. It's right. It's be a perfect triangle or an equilateral triangle. Is that what they call it? An upside down equilateral triangle. I think that's it. Let's go down and say we go below it here. All right. So now we're going to go. Now we don't have to take the inverse distance. So 4 note away major third. If I go down, then I'm going to look for 4 notes away. But I'm crossing the fault line, which is this tectonic plate. So this is the only time that I could go down 1 string and cross the fault line. So if I go down 1 string, it goes diagonal, which would be 5, and then back to 4. So if I did that from here, it's going to be 5, and then back here to 4. So that's the one time that the shape looks wonky here. It looks like it because normally it would be back here, right? So in other words, if I wasn't crossing the fault line, which would be in every other position, including on this continent down below, because I wouldn't be crossing the fault line if I go down one string or any other string, it's going to look like that. So that means that normally if I go down one string, the 4-note away major third is normally 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the G string, in which case if I go down one string, the 4-note away major third and cross the fault line is right below it on the same fret. Where's the minor? It's right behind it. So if you were to kind of mess with this one, it's kind of like, how would you finger that? It's a little wonky. You would think it'd be easy to finger the one right underneath it. But if I'm trying to play this and the one above it, then it's like, which finger? Or you can try to do it by hammer on. Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's go down to the bottom fret. So we're going to go down to here. So now we're going to go back to here. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. All right, so if I go down to the bottom string, then I'm counting for a 4-note away major third, which is going to count this way, 5, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So let's count it out this way. If I'm here, it's going to be 5, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Open E, so C to open E. So that means if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 4-note away major third is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. What if I don't cross the fault line? If I'm on this C up here, then I wouldn't cross the fault line. I would not cross the fault line if I go down 2 strings on either, if my starting point was the E or the A string. So if I went down 2 strings here, I'd be back to here. Is that right? Yeah. So that means it'd be a longer distance because this pushed the bottom note forward, this tectonic plate shifting up. So normally if I go down 2 strings, the 4-note away major third will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets back, which is just out of reach, which means it's also going to be 6 frets forward. If I went this way, it's the wrong button. It's also going to be 6 frets forward out this way, equilateral triangle or whatever. I think that's the name for it. And so unless I cross the fault line, in which case if I go down, which would happen, by the way, on either the D or the G string, in which case if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 4-note away major third will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. All right, let's go to the next one. I won't tell another joke because that last one was a long one, and I possibly could have angered people. I don't know. It's hard to tell these days what people get angry at. So I try not to worry too much. But anyway, it was long, so let's go to the next one. If they were angry, they wouldn't be here anymore, so then you could tell another joke. But no, I'm just going to keep going. This is going to be the 4th. So now we're on a 5-note away perfect 4th. So this 4 represents the 4th position relative to the scale. And this 5 represents how many notes away it is. So when I say it's a 5-note away, don't mistake that for saying it's the 5th. It's not the 5th, it's the 4th, but it's a 5-note away perfect 4th. The fact that it's a perfect 4th means that it's typically the same on all of the mode. On all the mode, meaning it's going to be the same on the major scale and the minor scale at the least. And most of the modes also have a perfect 4th. So you're okay to play a perfect 4th interval on basically every note in here, in essence, except the Lydian, which has an augmented, so has an augmented 4th on it. I believe all the other ones have a perfect 4th. So we want to know this one well. although it's not in our normal chord construction because it's an even number and our chord constructions always skip every other number. So we have to have a different naming construction. So it's going to be the 1, 3, 5, and then it goes to the 7, which is the last note in a scale. And then we have the 9 instead of the 2 because we don't call it a 2 because you need to be odd to be in this group. So you have to be a 9. And then we have the 11, which is equivalent to the 4. So that's what we're on now. So we can call it then a 5-note away perfect fourth or a 5-note away perfect 11th from the standpoint of chord construction. We have to memorize both of those names so that we don't name it the wrong thing in the wrong place, right? If you call it the wrong thing, at its job environment, then they'll kick him out. They'll kick him out of the job because because he's not in the proper classification to qualify for the hiring to match the quotas that were put in place for the for the thing. So we have to be an odd one to fit in there. All right. So in any case, we're gonna say that let's say if we go on the same string, we go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I go from the C to the F, that's a 5-note away perfect fourth. All right, let's go above it now. If I go above it, I'm going to look for the inverse distance. So a 5-note away perfect fourth or 5-note away perfect 11th has an inverse distance of 12 minus 5 or 7. And that's useful to know because it's the 7-note away perfect fifth and the 5-note away perfect fourths are inverted. So those are easy to kind of memorize because the other ones are a little bit more difficult, you'll note, because all of the majors have an inverse distance of a minor and so on and so forth, whereas the perfects are inverses of each other, and there's only really 2 of them if you don't count the perfect first, which has an inverse of itself, which doesn't really count, really, because that's like the same thing. So the perfect fourth, the 5-note away perfect fourth inverse is the 7-note away perfect fifth. That makes sense. All right. So then I have to look for a distance of 7. So it's going to be -5, and then this way 6, 7. Counting it out from here, -5, 6, 7. If I went from top to bottom, you'd get a 7-note away perfect fifth. If I went from the C up to the F, 5-note away perfect fourth. So that means if I go up 1 string, the 5-note away perfect fourth or 5-note away perfect 11 is 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string, in which case, let's go out here just a touch. If I was on this C and I go up 1 string, it's going to be further back because the root note has been shifted up because this tectonic plate has shifted up. So the rule is if I go up 1 string, the 5-note away perfect fourth, which could also be called the 5-note away perfect 11, is 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string, in which case if I go up 1 string and cross the fault line, the 5-note away perfect fourth, which could also be called the 5-note away perfect 11th, is 3 frets back. Okay, hopefully I said that correctly. I feel like I messed something up, but no, I think that's right. I think I said it right. I'm not going to second guess myself. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing, Wyatt. Okay. No, you don't. You don't know what you're doing. Okay, whatever. Let's go. I don't know where that came from. Let's focus. Focus, dang it. All right. Let's say we go up 2 strings. We're looking for a 5-note away perfect fourth, which has an inverse distance of 12 minus 5, which is 7. 7-note distance, -5, -10, and then -9, 9, 8, 7. Boom. Let's do that from here. -5, -10, -9, 8, 7. So if I went from the top to the bottom, that would be a 7-note away perfect fifth. If I went from bottom to top, therefore, that would be a 5-note away perfect fourth. That means that if I go up 2 strings, the 5-note away perfect fourth is 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the B or the E string, in which case if I was on like this one and I went up 2 strings, then I would be going out to here. And it would be a closer distance. Why? Because the root note has now shifted forward, making it a tighter distance, so less of a reach. So that means if I go up 2 strings, the 5 note away perfect 4th, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11th, is going to be 1, 2, 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B or the E string, the bottom 2 strings, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 5 note away perfect 4th, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11th, is going to be 2 frets forward. You see how I try to cram as much information in my practice as possible, and I try to actually say it because that helps me. Maybe some people learn differently or whatever, but I feel like if you actually repeat that, like the words are important, you know, like the definitions are important. Don't let the deconstructivist tell you different, that they're going to redefine the thing. No, I know what the words mean. I know what the words mean. And if you have a different definition, we clarify that before we start arguing about things. Otherwise, you just go around in circle redefining terms, and it makes me want to smack you because it's like, that's ridiculous. All right, I'm not, oh, so now you're getting violent. Now you're getting violent. Put him in jail. Okay, no, I don't actually want to smack anyone. I was just saying, where's the social media police? Get this guy's threatening to smack people. Okay. I'm calm now. It was just passing aggression. All right, let's go. Let's go up 3 strings. And we're looking for the 5 note away perfect 4th, which has an inverse distance of 7 notes. 12 minus 5 is 7. So -5, -10, -15, we can bring that down. 15 minus 12 would be -3. And then 3 going back would be 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's count that up here. -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is 3. And then 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I went from top to bottom, that would be a 7 note away perfect 5th. Bottom to top would be therefore a 5 note away perfect 4th. So if I go up 3 strings, then the 5 note away perfect 4th is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back, unless I cross the fault line, which of course would happen on the B or the E string. So let's go out here to that C out here. I could do this one without having to. Let's go to this one, and let's say we went up 3 strings, 1, 2, 3, and then we go back to here. Now it's going to be a longer distance because this tectonic plate shifted to the right. So the rule is, if I go up 3 strings, the 5 note away perfect 4th will be 1, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11th, will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back unless I cross the fault line, in which case, which would only happen on the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 1, 2, 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 5 note away perfect 4th, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11th, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. Whew. Makes perfect sense. All right, let's go down. This should be easier. We'll go down this time, right below it. So now I'm going to go down below it, and we're looking for right here. So 5 note away perfect 4th. I don't need to look for the inverse distance. It's just going to be a distance of 5 notes away because I'm going below it. And we cross the fault line. So this is the only time I would go down 1 string and cross the fault line. So this is the oddball interval, or at least shape, odd shape, same interval. So it would be 5 notes away would be right there because I crossed the fault line. So if I look at it this way, boom, boom. So that would be a 5 note away perfect 4th. So the 5 note away perfect 4th, if I go down 1 string and cross the fault line, is 1 fret forward. But normally I wouldn't cross the fault line even if I was on this bottom tectonic plate, right? I wouldn't cross the fault line here or up here. It's only on this G string that I do cross the fault line. So normally, if I go down one string, the 5 note away perfect fourth would be on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, which I happen to be on when I'm measuring from this particular C, in which case, if I go down one string and cross the fault line, the 5 note away perfect fourth, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11, is 1 fret forward. See how that, let's do one more time. One more round. I didn't hear no bell. I didn't hear no bell. I only stop when bells are ringing. Why? Because that's when the lunch happens. Because my mouth starts watering because they trained me to eat stuff when bells ring. Let's go down two here. All right, so now I'm going to go down 2, and we're going to say we're looking for the 5 note away perfect fourth. So it's going to be 5 and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Counting it out this way, we'll say 5, 10, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Boom. So we're looking from here. So that means if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 5 note away perfect fourth is 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. I wouldn't cross the fault line if I was on either the E or the B string, or the E or the A string. So if I was like up here and I went down 2 strings, then I wouldn't cross the fault line. And then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. So the general rule is if I go down 3 strings, then the 5 note away perfect fourth, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back, which is just reachable. But if I cross the fault line, which would happen on the G or the B string while I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, then the 5 note away perfect fourth, which could also be called the 5 note away perfect 11th, will only be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. All right, that's the general rule. We're going to move on to the 7, the 9, 11 next time. I'm sorry, to the 5, 6, and 7, which could be called the 5, 13, and 7, because again the evens have 2 names. They're living 2 lives, man. They're living 2 lives. Why? Because that's what society forces them to do it. If they want to live, if they want to feed themselves and get a job, they have to live the two lives as a chord construction when they go to work, versus like when they're not at work and then they have the even. That's what they were, and that's how it works. So we'll do that next time.